Hey guys, welcome to the shop. And man, have I got a crazy exciting video for you guys this week. No, I'm just joking. It's not that exciting, but it's something that I need to do anyway, and I'm glad you're here, so let's go inside and get started. Alright, what I need to do is I need to make some T-nuts for this big shaper. Now that's not very exciting, but it is something that I need to do. You know, I've only got a couple for this machine. The ones that are holding the vise on, and those are T-nuts or T-studs. And I don't have any T-nuts that are half 13. My milling machine, it takes, I think they're 5/8. This takes 3/4. This is a big machine, and it takes, you know, large T-nuts. The common, I believe, T-nuts for this machine are, I think, 5/8 11 thread. I want to make some that will take half 13 thread. All my hardware for my clampings that I use on my milling machine are half 13. So I'm going to use what I have. So I need to make some T-nuts, and I'm going to make them out of this piece of mild steel, at half, you know, that are half 13 threaded. I'm not going to harden these or anything like that, simply because I don't believe it's necessary. You know, these are not going to be production used T-nuts. You know, they'll more than withstand the pressure that I'm going to put on, and they'll last me probably a lifetime. So I'm going to bring you in, we're going to discuss the tools that I'm going to use, and get started. Alright, before we do anything, I want to make sure this vise is set up correctly, because I have moved it since the last time I used it, and we need to tram it in. So I'm going to bring you around here, show you the indicator, and show you the tools that I use to do it, and how I do it. Alright, I'm going to be running my vise jaws parallel to the movement of the ram of the shaper. I'm going to use a couple tools to bring this in. One is just a tense indicator. A parallel, because there's a gap in the bed of this vise that I have to span in order to check it front to back. And then a lead thumper, or a lead hammer. Now both of these are just pure lead, so they're really soft, and they won't damage this vise when I bump it around. So we've got our shaper set up on its slowest stroke, so let's see what kind of reading we get and see how we need to bump it in. We've already got our bolts loose, or just barely snug. So it's showing that there's more pressure on the indicator up here, so it's high, and the vise needs to tilt a little. Pressure to it. Got us within about 5/10. There we go. That's got us within about 3/10. We're going to tighten as far as this way. We're going to tighten our bolts and recheck. Make sure things don't move, because they often do. No, we're good. Good that way. Now I'm going to bring it around front and show you how I do it front to back. Alright, now we need to change the length of the, we're only going to be checking over 6 inches. This is our parallel to span our gap here. You don't have to have that, but it makes it nice and gives you a smoother reading. So we're going to go down to about 5.5 inches of stroke. Where it's positioned. Should be good. Bring our indicator down. Get it to cooperate. There we go. 1/10 indicator, so we're just barely bumping around. Maximum a couple tenths out this way, so we're good there. Now we're ready to lay out our T-nuts and get started. Alright, tools I'm going to use, basically a parting tool. I'm going to use it to come down and make the recesses for the sides of the T-nut. Then I'm going to square this block up using this big Williams. Yeah, it's number 42. Now this is much bigger than most people need, but if you have a shaper and you don't have a universal tool holder, one that's indexable, you should get one if you can, because they are extremely nice. And this one has lots of positions. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can get every 7.5 degrees. You can clock this tool bit, so real nice. And then another thing that I'd like to just mention is this lead knocker hammer, whatever you want to call it. First thing we need to do is square this block up. Now it's pretty square already, but just to make sure that we get it to where it'll clamp good in this vise, I'm gonna knock it off, just make a skim cut just to make sure it's square. So I'm gonna get set up and I'll bring you back when we're cutting. Alright, now we don't need this big Williams tool holder to do this. We could just put a tool bit in there, but I want to use it just because. And according to my calculations, we should be, now according to this paper, we should be running, we're a 24-inch standard. We're going to be running an 8-inch stroke at 94 strokes a minute, and that will give us 116 surface feet per minute. This is mild steel, so let's see what kind of finish we get. This is just a 1/4 inch radius, just a round nose tool. We've got our clapper snug, that way it can't swing out of control, because this is a pretty fast stroke. And we'll see what kind of surface finish we get. I'm interested to see, and we're going to give it a shot. It's got a pretty good finish already, but let's just skim it. We're going to take 10/1000ths depth of cut and 10/1000ths per stroke. Will you bring me a little closer? Good there. Alright. Here we go. Should have brought it over to the... brought it over. No oil or anything. About the same finish as before. But it's square. That's what we're after. not too bad. We could do better, but this is T-nuts, so we don't really care that much about the surface finish, really, to be honest. But you can definitely tell where that clapper's closing. Let me show you. It's a common thing that I've talked about before. Let's see if we can see it on camera. Yeah, you can see it. You know, tools coming out, making a cut, lifting off the work, coming back, tool bit slams on the work, comes back, resets, and does it again. You know, and it bounces, hits, bounces off, hits again. Pretty common, so if you're getting that, you know, that's what it's from. It's just clapper timing. I could unlock this clapper and, you know, it would swing way out and close after it, you know, gets to the back of the stroke, and it would stop that, but it would also beat that clapper pretty hard too, and I don't care about that spot. So let's move on to the next step. Alright, now here's, you know, some that I'd started to make in the past. This one's finished, but, you know, this is just a rough blank. And by the looks of this block, I'm going to get about 6 out of this. Not quite wide enough to get, you know, 3 rows of 3. Can't get really 2 this way, so it's going to have to be long ways. And, you know, one of the common things that I see, you know, and do a lot of times, and I'm trying to get out of the habit of it, is making things, you know, when I machine something, you know, I want to make it exactly fit the slot that it's going to go in. But it's just not necessary with a T-nut. You know, you're dealing with slots that are probably going to have small chips and stuff in them, and you don't want to hassle with them being so tight that, you know, you have to, you know, force them in or wiggle them and whatnot. I'm going to make these to where they slide in the slot, you know, effortlessly, but still engage, you know, the vast majority of the contact area that they need to, you know, in order to be strong. So we're not real worried about the tolerances on these, but we want them to fit, but we want to be able to get them in and out. So that's the deal. I'm going to lay this out, and then we'll get started and we'll cut them. Alright, I've got my part laid out here. You're not going to be able to see the lines, at least not at the angle that you're at. I've checked my tool to make sure it's square, and I've also squared my clapper because I want it to be straight. I think I'm going to lock it, and if I didn't have it locked, I would want to make sure if I'm plunging with this tool that my clapper is, you know, 90 degrees to the work. That way it swings up straight and not to the side, because when you're plunging, you know, it'll swing up and hit. So it needs to be straight, and your tool needs to be straight, or at least really close, or else it'll interfere when the clapper swings up. So I'm happy with that, and my tool's tight. Now I don't have automatic down feed on this compound. I have to feed it down by hand. And on a fast stroke, like let's say 100 surface feet per minute, you just can't time that properly, or at least I can't by hand, you know, and feed it at the back of the stroke. So I'm going to slow it down, and that way I can control, you know, when I feed my tool into my work. I need to, let's see, feed down, I'm going to copy this nut here. I need to feed down about 325 thousandths, and I'm going to just work to the lines. That's about it. You know, once I've, you know, cut, I'll make sure I stay a little wide because I have excess material here, and then I'll work up to my final dimension. But we know we need to feed down into we need to plunge 325, and we're going to run, you know, a medium, you know, probably about 60 to, you know, 80 surface feet per minute, something we can control. If I had power down feed, like I said, that'd be nice, but I don't. So I'm going to get set up and ready to cut, and I'll bring you back. Alright, now this cutter is not quite wide enough to do that, you know, the side in one pass. I wish it was, but it's not, and I don't feel like grinding a little bit wider one. So we're going to just do it in 2 steps. So let's see how this does. We're just going to skim the edge here and feed down to our 325 thousandths, see what it looks like, see what kind of finish we get, and we'll decide what we do from there. So let's get started. Down to the touch. And zero it. Hard to control exactly. We're still about 7 thousandths off, so let's do it just a little fast. Good. Cutter is rubbing just a little. It's not relieved exactly right. Finish is decent. Not good, not great. It'll be fine for a T-nut. Move over to our next line. Again. We're going to have to use a little oil. That don't sound great. Alright, I'm going to try a little oil, and I'm going to slow this guy down a little bit. Because I don't like the way it's, I don't like the finish for one, and it's getting a little rubbing. Where I have this, well, I don't have it locked tight, but it's pretty secure. The clapper ain't got a lot of movement in it. So I'm going to slow it down, and see if I can get a better finish. Let's use a little oil. Let's see if it's definitely should help the finish. Move over just a little. Actually, it doesn't matter how much I move over. I'm going to have to cut this guy anyway, so I might as well move over quite a bit. Cut it with a saw. Feed down again. Decent. Enough for a T-nut. Let's move on to the other one. Alright. Time to work on our second row of T-nuts. Smoky. That's why I don't like using so much oil. Sometimes you got to. I've brought my carriage over, or my box over for my last two cuts on this block before I bring it over the saw and separate it, and then bring them each T-nut over here and cut it to size. So I'm going to do the same thing that I've been doing, and that's just feeding down by hand. Anytime I work with this compound, I always keep the lock fairly snug. That way I'm only working on one side of the screw, because this has about 10 thousandths backlash in it, and you couldn't precisely stop at a certain point, especially if you have brake on your tool, because it tends to pull it down. And if you think about it, this helps. At least it helps me. we got them cut long ways, and I'm pretty happy with that. This is 732, 740, so 0.08 of an inch difference, and that's fine. We wanted them under 3/4. And I mean, you can spend as much time as you want if you want to try to make precision T-nuts, but I don't know anybody that's ever took measurements off their T-nuts. As long as they fit the slots, you know, and are sufficient, you know, wide and, you know, enough to take the force, that's good enough. I mean, I'm not going to spend all day on making these T-nuts because it takes long enough as it is. So I'm going to take these over to the saw, and I'm going to split them long ways, and then I'm going to bring them over here and get them to the right width or the same width, and then we'll take them over to the drill press and we'll drill them. Alright, I'm just gonna get these, get them cut loose, get both of them set here, the one side that needs machined. About 11 inches long, so lengthen the stroke. Inches a stroke, and see what we're going to run. We are here. See if we run 13 inches a stroke. We'll run about 83 surface feet per minute, so that'll be 44 here. That work should be good. All right, let's see what that looks like. Just step out of the way. Make sure we're not going to hit. Way off. Clamp on it. light steel, it's just mild steel, so it's not going to be a great finish if we don't use a shear bit, but we don't care too much. We don't want it to be too crappy. Alright, and put our jaw extensions in, 2 pieces of 1/4 inch hot rolled steel, one with a stud in it. That way we can cut right up next to the blade if we need to. And bring the blade down and move them right next to it, close. Alright, we scribed our line on our piece, and this is adjusted to where it doesn't, the threaded rod is adjusted to where it takes up the gap, so it's not pinching off just out here, it pinches across the whole jaw. Bring this down and get it cutting where we want, right there. Okay, now bring in our length or repeater, or whatever you want to call it, and adjust it to where it just touches the back of that. Alright, and cut. Alright, got a handful of T-nuts here. We're going to knock all the sharp edges off, because the saw leaves quite a burr, and we're just going to make them to where they're, easy to hold, and that way they won't dig into the machine. So. Alright, got all these laid out. Got a little spring-loaded center punch. This is my favorite. You can use the ones that you push and then they, make your punch mark, but they're only one power. This you can choose, because I don't know how good you guys are at center punching, but no matter how hard I try, it is hard to get the center, and that one was a lucky strike. But plus you can, what I do is if I'm off center, I just angle my center punch a few little pecks with it, and then there we go. A light one to see where I'm at, and then I steer it. Alright guys, now I ended up with eight T-nuts, 2 from a previous attempt at building some. And I'm going to tap, 6 of them half 13, and then I'm going to tap 2, 3/8 16, just in case I need to, to bolt through something that has a small, bolt hole. So that's the plan, and we're going to drill them first with just a small pilot drill, and then we're going to bore through we're going to drill them first, small pilot drill, all of them. Then we're going to come back, do 6 with the 27/64, which is the drill you need for a half 13, and then we'll move on to a 3/8 16. Alright, here's a little tip for you guys. Drill a hole in your chuck key, in the stem of it, and hang it on a string on your machine. Make sure it's long enough to where use a cotton string or something that would break pretty easy, because you wouldn't want to turn it on with it on there. Just wrap up and break, but still. I've been doing this for years. This is the same cotton string I've had on here for probably 3 or 4 years, and it's still good. And I never have to find my chuck key. Plus, your drill gauge, same deal. Neat little tip, and it works real well. I'm going to finish drilling these out with 27/64, and then we'll tap them. Hand tapping is not all that fun, but it works. And it's quicker probably than me sitting up in the milling machine and doing it. And this is just mild steel, so it taps pretty easy really. Now, the half 13 won't be that easy, but none of it's all that hard, so that's about it. Alright, and here's one of our T-nuts. And my only complaint, they fit really well, but my only complaint is that I wish I'd had a little thicker piece of material so I could get more of it up in this web. But, I mean, that's reasonably good. We got room for, small chip clearance and stuff, so we don't, we're not wedging, them in and out if the slot's dirty. So I'm pretty happy with that. They're all the same, so I know they're all going to fit. And I really seriously doubt you're going to tighten anything up on, a T-nut this size or a table this size that's going to, pull that T-nut through. So pretty happy with that. Well, there you go. We got a handful of T-nuts here, and now we can use them for different projects other than just vise work. We had a couple, but not near enough. So, I mean, I've never used more than this at one time, that's for sure. So this is probably good enough. If I need to make them in different sizes, or at least thread sizes, I can. Make them shorter if I have a working right up next to the edge of a table, or a T-nut sticking out or whatnot. You can make anything you want. And that's the good part about this kind of stuff, is when you have this kind of equipment, you can make whatever you need. All you got to do is have the want to do it. And this took me about a day to film and make, just a few T-nuts. But I think if a person was, inclined to do it quickly, they could probably make them in a couple hours, or less. And I'm glad I done it, and I'm happy that I have them, and now I get to use them. So I need to get back on my indexing angle plate project. I've kind of put it off, but I got a tool on order that I'm waiting to come in that will make my life a little bit easier and maybe give me a better, job in the end. Plus, I'll get to review it and share it with you, and that's really what I want to do. So, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. If you haven't, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Click on the little guy up here, and click on the bell in one of these corners somewhere. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.